Hello and welcome to another edition of Pop and Scott Talk Baseball. Uh, we're getting to about that halfway point. Moves here and there. We had the Devers move. We had some crazy, more and more talks are going on about who's going to go where, but nothing really definitive yet. And you got anything for us today, Dan?
Well, I mean, the first thing I was going to just mention was the Devers trade because that happened right after we
You called me that night. Yeah.
that night, and he was traded from Boston to San Francisco for right-handed pitcher Jordan Hicks, left-handed pitcher Kyle Hartenson, and two prospects, outfielder James Tibbs III, and right-handed pitcher Jose Bello. They were, and he's the number 4 prospect in the Boston chain. They were traded back from Devers. Now all this came about because Devers was acting so petulant about the moving and all. Now I'm not going to say it's all on him.
Right, I was going to push back on that.
Admitted they didn't handle it right in spring training, but everybody in the world knew that the man coming in was going to third base except Rafael Devers. So it all of a sudden was a big surprise to him. And he said, I won't play anywhere else. Well, wait a second. You're the highest paid player on the team, $300 million contract. You're the highest paid player on the team. That should count for something. Other people like Aaron Judge and people like that have moved to let somebody. Look at Mookie Betts. He's played every place on the field and never said, no, I'm the right fielder. So as soon as he goes to San Francisco, I'll play anywhere you want.
Well, that's because San Francisco told him, hey, and then his mood totally changed. And I mean, I think we're not in on those meetings. And I had somebody actually, because I was kind of like you. I was like, and actually my boss at work, one of my big bosses, he's a huge Tigers. He's from Michigan. So we were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, that's like you telling me, I come in and I am this type of operator, but tomorrow you tell me I got to go do this, or while I'm doing this, you come and tell me to go do this other thing. And I said, no, you put me here. This is who I am. And I tell you no, or I'm, kick the ground.
It doesn't work.
He said, no, he goes, that's not exactly what it is. He goes, it'll be more like we sign you to a contract to play this position. Oh, and now we're going to hire another guy to come in to play your position and start moving you around and not really talk to you about it.
Well, the straw that broke the camel's back was he hit a little grounder and he knew he was going to be out.
Right, and didn't run.
So he just, loped. He didn't even run hard. He was loping down. He was loping down the first baseline, and when he walked back by his manager was right there on the top step. And when he walked by, and they're good friends, and when he walked by him, the manager looked at him and said, "Are you hurt?" And he just shook his head and went down to the dugout.
Well, I think that was stemming from either the night or 2 nights before when they wanted him to play first, and he said he doesn't even have a glove.
Well, I know that, but I know, but that was part of it. He stopped running out, and when the manager got upset with him.
Right. Well, I mean, when the owner and the GM fly across country to tell you you're getting traded and pretty much give you an ultimatum, hey, we need you to do X, Y, and Z. If not, and I mean, I've been saying all along, the Giants had the money, the cap. They have that middle of the lineup for them is really good. It relieves Chapman a little bit at third, and Devers can play first, DH. So it gives their lineup a lot of length, which I've talked about before. It pushes some of those guys down a little bit. It probably shouldn't have been up, but it's going to make that division is very interesting right now.
Yeah, and yes, because San Francisco is definitely going to be better now.
And Boston they just didn't get rid of Devers to get rid of Devers. The names you said are pitchers, right? Boston needs pitching. So I think their lineup is still going to be okay. They brought up some young dudes that are dudes, not just guys. They're dudes. So I think they're going to be okay. Let's now they might not do what I thought this year, but they're going to be okay. And Boston fans don't sit there and start. I had one of my friends in my group chat as a Boston friend. He freaked out for about an hour and a half, and then he calmed down and said, "Well, at least it's not as bad as Betts." So and the Betts
they got rid of that big contract too.
Yes, and now they have space. Now they can go after free agents. They could even be in the talks for Pete Alonso next year. Boston can.
Yeah, there's their first baseman.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes it interesting. So,
also over the Father's Day weekend, the Boston Red Sox swept the Yankees 3-0.
While this was going on,
and Aaron Judge struck out 9 times. The first time in the history of the Yankee franchise that a player had struck out 9 times in a 3-game series.
And fans want to burn him at the stake, probably.
Oh, yeah. The O's lost another pitcher, Cade Povich. He went on the IL with a bad hip.
I did not know that, yeah.
And, of course, Ohtani's pitching. So he's only pitching 1 or 2 innings, but he's pitching. Arizona in the College World Series no-hit Murray State. Cage Wood was the pitcher, and he struck out 19 Murray State players. First time that had been done in 65 years. And LSU won the World Series.
Because that pitcher couldn't pitch anymore. So,
the left-hander the left-hander that's going to be drafted 2 or 3. He pitched the first game, and Coastal Carolina couldn't hit. They scored some runs the second game, but they didn't.
It looked like Coastal was going to win it all, but LSU is.
Well, I said when we started this that LSU and Arizona having to play in the first game, the first set of games was stupid. They should have been on opposite brackets. Arkansas should have been over with. They should have been over where Coastal Carolina was. Then Arkansas and Louisiana State could have met in the finals. As it was in the semifinals, Arkansas played Louisiana State, and Arkansas was ahead 5-3 in the 8th inning and lost the game 6-5 because they ran out of pitchers because they were coming through the losers bracket.
Right.
They were ranked higher than LSU. By putting them in that first game, the loser was done. And the winner, I said, the winner of that game is going to win the World Series, and it was LSU. So, anyway.
And that was, great. That was logical what you were talking about. I follow along. And, now, these guys have a few weeks to rest and get ready for the draft, which will be All-Star Week. Now they put it during the All-Star Week. It used to be about, 6-7 years ago, it was during the World Series. And coaches and colleges didn't like that because you had players that were getting drafted and still playing. And, luckily none of the players where I remember decided, I got drafted, I'm not going to play anymore.
Yeah, I never saw anybody do that.
I never saw that, but, I think in today's game, you would have probably saw a little bit of that. So I'm glad it's moved.
Let everybody know we're taping on Monday afternoon. You had to work yesterday.
Yeah.
That messed that up. Anyway, so this is Monday afternoon. Keep that in mind when I go through the standings because I did all that Sunday morning
because I watched the game last night of one of the standings. Go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, we had two people pass this week in baseball. Dr. Ron Taylor, who was 87 years old. He was a pitcher from 63 to 72. When he retired, he got his medical degree, and he was the team doctor for the Toronto Blue Jays for 30 years. He's from Canada. He won the World Series in 1963 with the Cardinals and in 1969 with the Mets. He was a pitcher. He also won the World Series in 1992 and 93 with Toronto as their doctor.
Right.
And he's in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. He was in
Oh.
baseball for 40 years. And also, this is really sad. The infielder Luis Guevara of the Baltimore was 19 years old, playing in either the rookie league or the A League in Florida. Was killed last Sunday afternoon in a water skiing accident. Some of the team and young people went out in the water, and he got killed in a water skiing accident. 19 years old. Tampa Bay is for sale. And one of the people trying to buy them is a big industrialist from Jacksonville. So if he buys the team, maybe he'll build a stadium in Jacksonville and move them up there.
And also, I've heard that somebody else is an owner of another sport. I can't think of who it is that's interested in them as well. That's in they were a Florida-based place too. So, good news is Tampa's up for sale. Bad news, it looks like it's going to stay in Florida.
Well, they're drawing like crazy in that ballpark.
Well, I'm telling you, it's the ballpark. That ballpark, and also where it's at. They
on the wrong side of the bridge.
Well, it's not in Tampa. It's more middle. It's more locally, where it's at. It's easier to get to, and that's a lot, and it's family friendly. I think MLB from now on should look at making cozier ballparks. It's not about if you make a 19,000 seat, 25,000 seat stadium, and you only fill it up on opening day, July 4th, in the playoffs. What's the use? But if you can make a 9,000, 10,000 seat with lawn and still fill it with 15,000, because you with the lawn and standing with places to eat and all that stuff and make it family friendly. I think that, to me, that's the way it should go. Go backwards, not forward. What some people think is forward. I don't need to go and ride Ferris wheels and rides and do all of that stuff at the ballpark. Family friendly means having a fun day. That's why it's called a ballpark. It's not a football field. It's not a football stadium. It's not an ice hockey rink. It's a ballpark. So, you can have swing sets and all that for the children, but you don't have to go crazy. Just throw out a blanket on the grass and order some food and sit there and watch the game, and that's family friendly. And I think, I know I'm going off on a tangent, a little bit of a mini rant, but I think that has a lot to do with it. One of my friends that's in that area went to a game last week, loved it because let's be honest, watching the game in the Old Trop, it looked like they were out in some industrial complex in the middle of nowhere.
There's a garage.
Right. It echoed. It was just not a fun place to watch games on TV. And now they play in this beautiful ballpark that's cozy. Congratulations to that franchise and the fans. The fans now have a fun place to go watch games.
Right. The Pirates and Tigers had a little thing up there in Detroit during the week. Tommy Pham and I can't remember his first name, Santana. They both had run-ins with fans.
Is it Irvin Santana?
Yeah, the relief pitcher. He's a relief pitcher, and he got suspended for 3 games because he took a swing at a fan and somebody else, another player, a player on the other team, on the Detroit team, said they heard what the fan said and he had crossed the line.
Well, yeah, with what's going on, and
even if he crossed the line, the league suspended him for 3 games because he took a swing.
Right
now, he is appealing it, so he's not suspended until his appeal is heard. Pham wasn't suspended, but he didn't take a swing at anybody. He just hollered back at the guy, and some of the other players.
I don't know who wants to. Tommy Pham's put together. I don't know if you want to say anything to Tommy Pham.
And he's played on. He probably forgets what team he's playing on because he's been on about 19. He's just good enough to make every team.
And the thing is he's making good money when he does that.
Oh, and I know we only have about 20, 25, 30 people that tune in and look at this thing during the week.
35, I think.
But they're loyal.
Right. It's the
And
same
I had
thing.
no idea that the Dodgers watched this. I really didn't. Okay, it took them 2 years to figure it out because we've been talking about it since last year. But one of the talking heads on the Baseball Network, I should have brought it up last week, but I forgot, 2 weeks ago said that they had decided to do an internal audit and investigation into the myriad injuries on their pitching staff. And I'm sitting there going, my son and I talked about this for 2 years. Two seasons.
Orioles need to do the same thing.
The 2 seasons. But the Orioles and the Dodgers having their pitchers hurt all the time. So now they're looking into it. Well, I don't know what they're going to find, but they're looking into it.
Yes, they get hurt.
Yeah. Wow.
The third party is going to say, we need 6 more months. More money, please.
Oh, yeah. And then they also had a big to-do over the weekend when San Diego was playing the Dodgers, and they were plunking each other. And the managers, Roberts actually pushed Schmidt when he got his hand on him. And then the Major League Baseball suspended both of them for a game.
That's a heated rivalry. That whole West
I have to give Ohtani a little bit of credit here because it was the Dodger pitcher hit Tatis for about the 19th time. You know, he's been
bad too. It wasn't even questionable.
And so both benches cleared, and it was really wild.
Mm-hmm.
So then in the bottom of the ninth, Ohtani comes up and he gets drilled in the back. Well, he turned around and took his hand and said, no, stay in the dugout, go on, stay in the dugout. We don't need to do this. He trotted down to the first baseline, and the first baseman was talking to him, and they shook hands.
Right.
And that cooled everything off. I got to give Ohtani credit there. There was no need to have another bench clearing. It wouldn't have proved anything. You already had it. So I got to give him credit there.
Yeah, and I mean, I like I was saying, that those 3 teams, Giants, Dodgers, and Padres, and you got to say it can't be a rivalry unless both teams are good or very bad. Both teams are finally good. Padres, welcome to baseball.
Right.
They're good enough to be in the rivalry, and it is a heated rivalry between those 3 teams. And I mean, Arizona's in that division. All those teams just don't like each other, and nobody cares about the Rockies. So the 4 teams that matter, they just don't like each other.
Well, also in that melee, Robert Suarez, pitcher for San Diego, hit a couple of guys over the series, and he got suspended for 3 games, and he's appealing. My man, Cal Raleigh of Seattle, catcher, best catcher probably. If he stays healthy, Johnny Bench is still the best catcher ever. But if he stays healthy,
do you think his arm is top quality?
Yeah,
okay.
His arm's adequate.
I know he calls a good game. His pitchers like him.
He has 30 home runs Saturday, and now he's got 31. He hit another one yesterday against the Cubs. He has the most by a catcher before the All-Star break.
And he's doing this in Seattle, where it's not a home run friendly.
No, it's not. It's not a bandbox like they got in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's not. The West Coast stadiums are much more spacious,
and the air is different. And the other thing about he has more home runs than anybody else before the All-Star break. And we're talking about Pudge Rodriguez, Gary Carter,
Mike
and
Piazza,
Johnny Bench. And he's, Carl
Fisk,
Roy Campanella, back, Gabby Hartnett, Yogi. I mean, and he has more than any of them.
Yes.
And they're projecting that if he keeps this up, he'll be the first catcher ever to hit 50 home runs in a year. He's got 31 already.
Yeah, the only thing is, like, man, catching is such a hard position on you. And I don't know if he is built like that little fire hydrant that the Blue Jays have that can catch every game and go 100 miles an hour. But, I hope he can. I just don't want him to the Mariners and him push it so hard for some record that's going to take years off his time in the league. I'd rather see him longevity than break up.
Well, there's another reason he might not hit 50 home runs. The other teams might start saying, this guy's not going to beat me.
Right.
If I have to, I'll walk him.
Yeah, but not many of his home runs are solo. If you watch, most of them are people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If he comes up in a position where you can walk him and get rid of, 2 outs, nobody on, walk him.
Yes.
Don't
yeah,
pitch.
I would. I 100% would. And teams look at a lineup and they go, who can we pitch to and who are we not going to pitch to? And I can't tell you, J-Rod will have a couple of good games. Crawford has reunited, has relit something up there. It must be something in that Seattle area.
Well, they went about 15 games where they were scoring a bunch of runs, and now the last 7 or 8, they've gone dry again.
Right.
But that's why Houston's in first place.
Yeah, and speaking of the weather, this week it's going to be hot and humid, so balls are going to be flying.
Yeah, we're supposed to have 100 degrees, 103 for the next.
Supposed to be all the way. I know the Midwest is going through it right now, all the way up the East Coast.
Now I'm in Central Virginia.
Yeah,
we're near Richmond, and we're supposed to have 100 to 100.
I'm in the western part.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
I'm in the western part near the mountains in North Carolina, and we're going to be 100 degrees.
So
I know Philadelphia is going to be 100
over 90. So They had 2 baseball players in 2 different games yesterday pass out from the heat. One of them, I believe, was in Chicago with the Cubs in Seattle. I don't know who the other was.
That was kind of my thought, because this is really early in the season. Usually this is late July, August weather. But to have this early in the season is
well, get used to it, because they say this is going to be one of maybe the hottest summer ever. Anyway, poor Atlanta. They started really playing some decent ball, getting back up there. They'd gotten ahead of the Nationals in the American National League East, which says absolutely nothing.
Swept the Mets,
and they beat the Mets, and then they started losing again. And Wednesday, Sale fractured a rib, diving. He dove for a ground ball, grabbed it and threw the guy out, and pitched another inning and went in and said, I can't breathe. And he fractured a rib. It's not broken, it's fractured.
Right.
Cracking. But he's going to be out at least 15 days. So they just can't cut a break. This is going to be they're not going to do anything this year because of all the injuries.
Right. It's just not their season. I mean, come on, you can't have it every year.
Mets lost 2 out of 3 to Philadelphia.
Thanks.
The game they did win, in the middle game, they hit 7 solo home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I watched part of I was switching back and forth because there was other games. And they were hitting all these home runs. Now, I can sit here and say, well, you can hit all those home runs in New York in the Yankee Stadium because of that short porch, and that's true. Or you can hit a lot of home runs in Cincinnati or Philadelphia because they got those little bandbox stadium. Oh, yeah, that's true. But they were playing in Philadelphia. I can't use that as an excuse, because out of the 7 home runs, 4 of them were about 380 to 400 feet. They'd have been out of the Grand Canyon, not just Philadelphia.
Yeah, we're not cheap.
They were Soto hit 1 that's probably still flying.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's.
Well, Schwarber's Sunday night did one too. Schwarber.
Yeah,
he's in center field. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the Padres cut Jason Hayward yesterday, and
yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, he's been in the league for a long time. They sat him down. And,
well, he's the same age as Freddie Freeman.
Yeah,
it feels like he's not, but him and Freddie Freeman started the same.
Yeah, but he started having more injuries, and then Freddie has played on 2 ball clubs. Right. Hayward's been moved around to the Cubs and San, and so he,
and Hayward was the more thought of player that first year.
When he first came up,
they came in they're from Georgia. They
when he first came up, he hit home runs like crazy.
Yeah. First
game he hit 2 home runs.
Yeah, hit the back of the back wall in the bullpen of the old Atlanta Stadium. Not
the old Atlanta.
The last Atlanta Stadium.
And that stadium was new when your stepmother and I went down and watched them play Miami. Right. That stadium that's now old and gone was the new stadium then. Whoop-de-doo. We were in there the first season it opened.
Right.
and anyway, looking at the standings, New York has a 1.5 game lead on the Rays. The Rays have played the best ball for the last 6 weeks in baseball. They're playing a lot better outside than they did indoors because they're not in the garage anymore.
Well, Dad, if you went to play baseball, wouldn't you rather show up at that type of field than that other?
Well,
I first off, playing in a dome would just feel so unnatural to me.
I'm an old man. The only domes we had when I was a kid were on cathedrals.
Right.
So I mean, or they were igloos. We didn't have domes. Everybody played outdoors. So I didn't know what it was to play in a dome. I played baseball, and I played outdoors. I played 20 years of softball. I played outdoors. I didn't play indoors. I mean, it was just part of it. Part of playing was playing into different weather conditions. Sometimes I played in a light rain. Sometimes it was windy. Sometimes it was blazing hot, and you couldn't wait to get everybody out so you could get in there and get a drink of water. I mean, it was just part of the game. And then they started having the indoor games, playing on that AstroTurf where the ball would bounce 44 feet in the air. That wasn't baseball to me. That was highlight. But
right.
That's, anyway, the Toronto Blue Jays are 3 games back. And Detroit is leading the Central by 8.5 games over Cleveland. And I watched a couple of Detroit games, and of course Kluber was pitching, and your stepmom wanted to see him, so I turned that on. We watched that. He's just outstanding. They ain't got much behind him. Mm-mm. They're winning. They've got the best record in baseball, but they don't have much behind them. Now, Cleveland and Detroit are the only 2 teams in that division with winning records.
Now, are you talking about Detroit? Doesn't have much behind him.
Their starting pitching I saw behind him, and
Skubal is their main.
I mean Skubal, not Skubal.
Yeah. That's why you threw me.
She wanted to see Skubal, and I get all the names mixed up. But anyway,
Skubal is the number 1 pitcher in baseball, right?
Yeah, he's the number 1 guy, and so he was outstanding. Pitched 7 innings, outstanding. But they had trouble behind him, and they had trouble scoring runs. So I don't know if the Central is going to be good enough to beat the Yankees when the playoffs come.
I think their lineup can score runs. I just think they're just in a. You're starting to get into dog days earlier this year. It's getting hotter earlier. We just talked about it. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be who's got the best depth. And you just said it. You don't think Detroit's pitching is that deep, so it's going to take. This is where depth comes in, where people have.
They were in the playoffs last year, and they had to pitch 2 bullpen games.
Right.
And then the other thing I was going to mention is this: when you have a large lead like they do, it's hard to get up for every game like it's do or die, because we got to win this game.
That's why you see so many collapses. Because
so they're 8.5 games ahead of the Cleveland Guardians,
which is a quality team.
Yes, but they're the only other team in that division with a winning record.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, the Orioles are the only team in the East that have a losing record, and it's big. It's big. It's a big losing record. Houston is 5 games up on Seattle, but Seattle's starting to play better ball now. They had a weekend series with the Cubs. I believe they won 2 out of 3 games. I'm not sure.
Which is surprising because Cubs is the team to me that I don't know which one they are, right? They're almost Jekyll and Hyde, schizophrenic, whatever you want to call it. You don't know which team is coming out to play. Are we seeing a playoff team, or are we seeing a trade team?
Right now, as we speak, might not be the next week's show, but as we speak today, PCA is the best center fielder in baseball. That's defense, throwing, and hitting.
I don't know, man. That center fielder in Oakland.
I'm talking about it all around.
I don't know.
That kid in Oakland doesn't hit like PCA.
Yeah, but that kid in Oakland takes runs away.
Yeah, I know that. But I mean, as a defensive center fielder, he's the best. I'm talking about all around.
Yeah.
And anyway, the Cubs are 4.5 games up on guess who? The team that nobody thinks can do anything, Milwaukee and St. Louis. And in the West, the Dodgers are up 3.5 games on San Francisco and 5 up on San Diego. San Diego.
I want to back up real quick on PCA too. So it came out 2 weeks ago when the Cubs offered the trade. They did not want. He was the third choice of who they wanted from the Mets. They wanted either Brett Beatty or Alvarez first, and they settled on taking.
Right. In the last 2 years, he's played great in the center field, but he hit 210.
Right. But I'm just saying he could be the Mets center fielder right now, but the Mets decided to let him go.
But he's turning up now.
Yeah.
Oh, and the pitcher I was talking about for LSU, the left-hander, is Cade Anderson.
Yes.
And he'll be going high in the draft. But anyway, congratulations, LSU. They've won the World Series second time in, I think, 3 years. They won a few years ago when the right fielder for Washington that got hurt this year, Cruz, played on that team. And so did Skeens.
Yep.
And they won the national championship with that team. So that was 3 years ago. Because this is Skeen's second year. No, it was year before last because this is Skeen's second year. So that was 2 years ago. I enjoyed watching some of those college games, but the problem is I've gotten used to watching the major league games now with the pitch clock and everything. They're over in 2 hours and 30 minutes, or the Yankee games always go 3 hours. Don't ask me why, but they're over in 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes. These college games can go on for days. It just seems like it go, and they can go to the mound.
We talked about it before. I think last year they have a severe overcoaching problem in college. The coaches want to control every aspect of the game, and sometimes you just got to let the game play.
Well, last night's game's a good example. They've gone to the little,
and they got a pitch clock in college now, so it's not like.
Do. But they've gone to the thing in the hat.
Yeah.
The catcher can signal a guy. The kid for Coastal Carolina couldn't hear the signals. He went into the dugout 3 times they were trying to find one that he could hear. And I'm sitting there going, there's one out. There's nobody on base. One is a fastball.
Right.
2 is a curve. 3 is a change.
What game was I watching?
Coming to get you.
So I was watching a professional game, and the crowd was so loud that they had to go to that.
Because they couldn't hear.
They couldn't hear. So I was like, well, this is old-time baseball. I mean, in another few years, kids are going to be watching and not even know what the one finger down means.
Way back in the day when Manny Sanguillen was the catcher for the Pirates. I went to work one day and Boogie Belcher said, "What do you think of when I'm talking about being a big baseball fan? We're talking about baseball." And I said, "Well, the Pirates with Manny Sanguillen, a catcher, they don't have to worry about their signs being stolen." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because he puts them down in Spanish." But I mean, why are you making the game more complicated than it is?
Well,
because you know what's going to happen now. Now the fans know if we make a lot of noise when we're batting, they can't hear. So here's another, just like the football games, make a lot of noise so they can't call when they're calling the signals. The fans will learn that that's how you can give them a problem. Now they do have a pitch clock in college. But they come out to the mound. The pitching coach comes out to the mound.
Yeah.
Inning after. I mean, it's never ending, and the catcher runs out there. And
there's a lot of pitching changes.
Yeah.
I don't know how many players they have on their team, but it's got to be about 60. They carry an NFL team or their college football team because they have about 40 players in the bullpen. I haven't figured it out yet, and college baseball, that is one of the downsides. Even in a regular season game, you'd be watching a regular season game and you're just like, that's the down watching a college game. If baseball's major league, I think, has got it now. It'd be great if it was a 2-hour game, but I'll take 2.5 hours. A lot of games are getting closer to that 2 hours because so many strikeouts. But the college game, that's the back. They can be 4 hours long very easily.
A couple of weeks ago, I watched. Now I won't be able to remember the kid's name. The left-hander for the Nationals,
Gore.
Gore was pitching, and they were pitching. I think it was against Kansas City, and Kansas City had one of their good pitchers out there, and that game was over in 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Right.
1-0. 2 hours and 10 minutes. I like last night. Now they're gonna. I've defended the Washington manager somewhat because he's with a rebuilding team. But I was watching the game yesterday afternoon. They were playing in L.A. and it came on in the afternoon. Nationals had the lead. It's 3-1. The bases are loaded. There's 2 outs. He takes the pitcher out and brings in a left-hander to face the third baseman.
Machado?
Huh?
Not Machado?
No, for the Dodgers.
For the Dodgers. Third baseman. I don't know who's playing third base right now.
Yeah, the left-handed guy. He's been there for years. This is terrible. I can't remember his name. That's what happens when you get old. But anyway, he came up to hit, and he brings in his left-hander to face him. And the guy hit a grand slam and put it was 3-0, and they were ahead now 4-3. They went on to win 11-7 or 11-8. But I didn't think anything of it, except when I saw a part of the game the day before. I saw the same kid in the game, and the announcer, one of the guy doing the color commentary for the Nationals, said this was the third time in 4 days this kid's pitched. That is a dumb move.
Well, they've seen him twice.
Well, not only that, but he's got.
That's a callback. That's a callback to long.
2 days ago, you saw his stuff, but now he's pitched.
He's tired. Yeah, it's a little.
4 days, he's got to have some fatigue.
You take a mile or two off, then the fastball you couldn't catch up to yesterday, you can catch up to today.
He threw one strike, and then everything else was way outside. He was pulling the ball across his body.
Right.
They finally threw one in there, and he got crushed.
Right.
Makes me mad. I can't remember his name.
For the
Dodgers, the third baseman, he bats left-handed, and I thought after this year he'd probably retire because he's only hitting about 220.
Are you talking about Max Muncy?
Max Muncy, that's it.
Okay. Because he plays everywhere. I'll just throw that.
Yeah, he's been playing third base. Man,
he played second for a while. He was your second baseman.
Yeah, but they moved him to third, and he's pretty much there now. Because like yesterday, they had Edmonds at second and
right. Yeah,
Mookie Betts was playing shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie was on first. I mean, that's powerhouse infield, and that second baseman, he made one heck of a play going out into center field to catch a ground ball and throwing somebody out at first. But anyway, that's all I got today. The big thing of the week, of course, is Devers being traded to San Francisco. That's the big move, and we'll see if San Francisco can do anything with it.
Yeah,
because they can also make some moves at the deadline.
Yeah, they can get. They need another pitcher.
And so can Boston because they got rid of the $300 million.
Boston could really make a move. I think Boston's going to wait because I don't think they're going to be a contender now. I think if I was this is somebody that works manufacturing for a living, being a GM, I would wait to see who. There is some contracts that are coming up, and now you have the money to bring a top talent to Boston. So I think you have the money to make a move, and it'd be interesting. I think Boston needs a bigger. I don't even I said Pete Alonso earlier.
They're one of the teams in the game that really kind of needs a big star somewhere because that's how they, that's how they. I mean, they're one of the biggest ever on a losing team, and that was Ed Williams.
Could Duran or one of these other young bucks be their future star? Of course, but time will tell. So it's going to be interesting. And also, to let you know, for the White Sox, our boy Tio got called up 2 weeks ago. I forgot to mention it last week. UVA used to Cal Tio. He was at Boston, got a cannon for an arm. Now he's in Chicago, and he's been playing with them for the last couple of weeks. So thought I'd mention that too.
Oh, good for him.
Being a Virginia fan. And if you're watching Teal Family, please subscribe. So that's it. Anything to go
Well,
on?
my yogiism this week is the same answer I would give to this question. He was asked growing up, he said, when you were growing up, what was the best thing about school? And he said, when it was closed.
There you go. Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
I was never, I have some intelligence, but I can follow baseball, but I have no interest in school. I mean,
Right.
Now certain things, aspects of social studies and civics and the world we live in, I can learn a lot about that. I've read a lot of history books and books on about all the wars that have been fought and all the wars the United States has fought. So I read a lot of books all the time. And so that gives me the knowledge to just not sit here and talk about something without knowing anything about it. I saw your stepmother watched a quiz show the other day, and they had two guys on there, and he asked a question about the 20th century, and the guy looked right at the guy and said, "What's the 20th century?" This is a grown man. What is the 20th century? I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave you all with that. Please, everyone, be safe out there. Stay cool. If you're at the pool, make sure you're still staying hydrated. Enjoy the games. And until next time, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And until then, see ya.